Hello, my amazing artists. Today we are going to create a basket full of painted eggs, and then we are going to paint it in. If you are at home, then you can use paint or whatever you have at home to paint your basket. So we are going to start with a white sheet of paper, and if you are at school, you are going to be starting by using a pencil. Please put your name on the back and then flip it over. I'm going to start by making the basket, and my paper is vertical, straight up and down. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take my pencil and about halfway, maybe a little bit lower than halfway, I'm going to make a straight line all the way across the paper. Give me a thumb up when you have your straight line and you are ready for the next step. Our next step is we're going to make a little jump and we're going to make another parallel horizontal line. Parallel means that the line is right next to and follows its other line. So these are two parallel horizontal lines. Then I am going to close this big rectangle shape with two vertical lines, one on one side and one on the other side. Give me a thumb up when you have a very long rectangle. Our next step is we are going to make a big smiley line, almost like a big U shape. So you could kind of practice a little bit, and it's okay if it doesn't come out perfect. So I can maybe practice and see where that U shape's gonna go. And I'm not gonna start at the edge, a little jump, just so I have a little bit of a lip for the basket. And I'm gonna start by making a straight line that goes down, curve my line, follow those parallel lines, curve back up, and stop. Yours might be a little bit different than mine. Maybe yours curves and has more of a triangle shape. Completely up to you. And it's okay if you need to erase and fix it. I'm going to pause here and give me a thumb up when you are ready. We're going to take a break on the basket part now, and we're going to move on to creating a bow, because the bow is going to be at the top of our basket, and the bow is all the way here at the top. So let's zoom in, and I'm going to show you how to make a bow. So I'm going to start, like I said, kind of in the middle here, and I'm going to jump all the way up, not all the way to the top, but right about here, and I'm going to start by making the letter L. Then I'm going to make a upside down L, and it's going to close, so now I have a little box. So next I'm going to make the ribbons on each side of the center of the bow. So I'm going to make a big loop that goes up, turns around, and then comes back to meet the edge of this square. So I come up, around, and then back. Almost like a big backwards letter C. And then now this side, it's actually going to be a big letter C. So I go up, down, and back around. And my bow is not perfect. Sometimes it's very hard to even make a perfect bow in real life. I'm going to pause here to make sure you guys are ready for the next step. Now I'm just going to make little loops inside of these bows to show that it's a bow, because right now it doesn't look too much like a bow, but we're going to make some loops. So I'm going to follow this letter C, so I'm going to make a small shape inside of this shape here. So just like a little teardrop, I went up, around, and then I came back to meet the square. I'm going to do the same to the other one. I'm going to go up, around, and then back to meet the square. Up, around, and back to meet the square. There, now it's really starting to look like a bow. Give me a thumb up when you're ready with your bow. While we're waiting too, sometimes some bows have some little lines and folded lines. If you wanted to draw some lines, you don't have to, but sometimes they have little folded lines. You can make some lines in there, make it look more like a realistic bow. So now that we have our bow shape, we're gonna make the two little tassels coming down, because we tied the bow, but now there's going to be two little tassels coming down. So I'm going to start in the center of the square. I'm going to make one line that goes down and then curves to the side. And then this one is right next to that one. Don't make a space, right next to it. And it's going to do the same thing, but it's going to mirror it backwards. It's going to go down and then curve out. And again, I'm going to kind of make the same line, the parallel line. It's going to match this line, and it's going to be a line that goes out. And then this line also goes out. So they kind of match each other. And then I'm going to make a triangle, a half a triangle, to finish this bow like this, going up at the middle and then a diagonal line back down. Up to the middle and then back down to the other line. Good job, you guys finished your bow. That was probably the hardest part of this drawing. If you feel like you want to leave the bow out or you want to put something else in the middle of your basket, that's totally up to you. You are the artist, you make those artistic decisions. So when we are ready, we are now going to make the handles for the basket. So it's just going to curve starting at the bow, and it's going to curve all the way down to the two parallel lines on the basket. So I'm going to make a curved line that goes down, and I actually lightly drew that. I don't know if you see that. So now that I lightly drew it, now I can make that darker line and make that more confident line. And then this is also going to be another parallel line, and it's going to just be a little bit farther than that line, and I'm going to make that curved line. I never moved my hand. All I did was curve my pencil, and I used the curvature of my wrist to make that line. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. So I'm going to start up here and I'm going to meet all the way down here. So maybe I want to make a really light line, super light line to see where it is, and I can guide myself, and I like that line. I can trace that line over again. Then I'm going to jump and do the same thing, a parallel line on the other side. If you need to fix some things, you can go ahead and do that now. So now we have our beautiful basket, and you can really put anything inside your basket that you want. If you don't want to put the eggs inside the basket, that's totally fine. You can put other fun things inside of the basket. But right now what we're going to do is we're going to draw grass that goes inside the basket and then the painted eggs. So how I make the grass is I just make a bunch of zigzag lines, and some of these zigzag lines are different lines and shapes, and I can get really fun and creative with it so it looks like natural grass. My next step is to make the eggs inside of the basket. And I'm only going to make half of the shape of the egg because I want it to look like they're sitting inside of the basket. So what I do is and I can make a light line. I'm just going to make a curved, almost like a rainbow line in the basket. And I can do the same to the other side. I can make a big rainbow line starting from the one corner and then meeting all the way to the end of the grass because it's sitting inside of the grass. And then I'm going to do one right in the middle, right here. Kind of bridges one egg to the other egg. And that must be a big egg. You can keep going and you can keep adding more eggs to the basket, or maybe you want to put something else in the basket like a toy or a bunny. That's totally up to you and your design. Now each of these eggs are going to be painted something different, so you can do a pattern in each of these eggs. Maybe one of your eggs has diagonal lines on them. Maybe one of your eggs has spots on them, and I can draw circles and kind of other rainbow lines to show that it's a half of a circle and it's kind of hidden on the other side. Totally up to you. Maybe you want to do hearts and stars or something different as the pattern for your eggs. And this one I'm going to make some wavy lines on it. I'm going to pause here and wait till you guys are done drawing things inside of your basket. Okay, now that we are done drawing inside of our basket, the last thing we're going to do is, if we look here at my picture, we're going to make the lines to make the basket look like that it is woven. It's a woven basket. So I'm going to start by making straight lines on the handles of the basket. And these straight horizontal lines are going to curve with the handle. So when they start to curve, the line starts to turn to a diagonal line. And the same to the other side. I'm going to start straight and then start to curve as I come around the top of the basket. Next, I'm going to make some diagonal lines on the parallel rectangle that we made first. And some more horizontal parallel lines for the bottom of the basket. Give me a thumb up when you have these lines on your basket. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some lines that are kind of going to look like a brick design, but it's going to make it look like the basket is woven. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some vertical lines and make some squares inside of that shape. When I move on to the next row, I'm actually going to make that line in the middle of this line. So I don't want it to be on top of this line. I want it to be on top of this shape right here. And I'm going to skip because it's going to look like bricks. That's what bricks look like on a brick wall. And then I'm going to keep doing that until I get all the way done with this woven basket. And that one I don't have to draw the line. I can kind of, some of them you might not have to draw because they're hidden. Wow, what a great job you guys did. That was a lot of fun. So next what we're going to do is we're actually going to get our markers. And if you have paint, we can actually paint our picture today. And it should dry in time for us to take it home. So we're not going to add too much paint to it. So I'm going to start by tracing all of my pencil lines with marker. And my basket's going to be brown. If you want to make your basket a different color, then you can choose a different color. Sometimes baskets are all different kinds of colors, but mine's going to be a nice brown basket. I can also trace the bow line. The grass line. I'm actually going to color that part in because it's a very small part. And I can trace my eggs. Now I can work on the fun part, which is painting in my basket. And I can go ahead and just paint right over those markers and color in the basket. I can paint in the bow. I'm trying to use not too much paint because my goal is I want to take this home today. So if we do take it home today, we can make sure it's dry and we can take it home. And then I can paint in my eggs. Unless you colored them in. You can also color them in if you want to. Since baskets are normally used outside, I can paint the green grass that my basket will go and sit on top of when it's outside. Maybe in the background you also have some flowers. Maybe there's some other things in the background. But what I'm going to paint in the background is I'm going to make these really fun spiral background pattern. And I'm going to do that in blue. And I'll show you here. I'm going to make a spiral. And then I'm just going to keep continuing these spirals all over the background. It's okay if you go off the page and get on the table. We can always clean it up later. But this is kind of a nice fun pattern that you can do. That's not just a blue sky. We can kind of make it fun and interesting. I got some on my basket, no big deal. I can change the color to a darker blue or maybe a different color, and I'm just going on top of my basket or my sky with these spiral designs. If you don't want to do this, that's totally up to you. You are the artist. Maybe you want to make a pretty sky with the sun in the background. Maybe you want to paint some more eggs that are sitting in the grass. Totally up to you. Can even go very lightly and then kind of paint just a little light on top of all those spirals. It's a little hard to see on my projector because the light is very bright. But if you are at school, you can look up at the board and see what it looks like. And when you are all done, our goal is to take this home today. So you're going to let it sit on your table to dry for a little bit before we go. And then it should be ready to go home once it's dried a little bit because we didn't put too much paint on top of it. These baskets came out awesome, and I cannot wait to see what you create.